for a kind invitation to the seminar. So indeed, so this is a report on the crisis work of a team of applied mathematicians from INRIA École Polytechnique and a team for emergency physicians for Paris Emergency Services. So all the half of those authors of the papers are from are physicians, which is somehow it's not so usual maybe in mathematical articles. So how it started, how we came. So the message of this talk is that you can use the information of calls to emergency medical centers to have early monitoring of the COVID-19 epidemic. So how it started, since 2014, our team, we were working with Préfecture de Police de Paris on the dimensioning of a call center for numbers 17 and 18. So in France, it may be different in UK. In France, there are 3 historical numbers, 17 for the police, 18 for the firemen, and 15 for the health, for emergency physicians. So we started to work with firemen and policemen. And more recently, in 2019, we started to work on the call center of 15, which is very just differences. And then it's why on March 13, I was called by head of, let's say, computer department of Assistance Publique Hôpitaux de Paris to, well, since there was an unprecedented number of calls to the French, it's called the SAMU, Service d'aide médicale urgence. So SAMU, it's a mean just EMS. It's a national EMS in every department of France. Voilà. So, so what we did is initially we did some dimensioning, that is how much you should staff given the epidemic wave that was coming. And then by doing this staffing, then we started by doing staffing. And then we saw actually that in EMS departments, you had some very early epidemic signals. And so that we used to make some kind of prediction of evolution and to monitor the epidemic. And you will see that relatively surprisingly, there is some mathematics will go there. So I understand it's well, a seminar of numerical analysis. So you will have some transport PDE, which are good friends to numerical analysis, transport PDE. And we'll have some Perron-Frobenius theory, which is quite related to transport PDE, which appear in epidemiology. Voilà. And it will be quite practical examples. So here is how it started. So first I will tell you how we start to work on the dimensioning, and then how we moved to the monitoring of the epidemic in Paris, of the crisis of March, April in Paris. Voilà. So here is how it works SAMU Center 15, so the toll-free center. Voilà. So we represent this by a so-called PetriNet. So PetriNet, it is, well, a graph with 2 kinds of nodes, a transition, which represents events on places, which corresponds to the position of resources. So you can say that so it may be the case that the French EMS are a bit different from UK, you will tell me. In France, we have 3 kinds of staff, basically, in EMS. We have a medical assistant who answers the phone and takes the address of the person. And you have something very special, which is the emergency physician. So it is a physician, sometimes with 20 years of experience, who handles the most life-threatening emergencies, if you want. And you have also a general practitioner, GP, which work inside the center 15. So here is how it works. So when the person calls, it is handled by the medical regulation assistant who try to make a first check and decide, for instance, that medical advice is enough. So the patient is waiting for the general practitioner to take him at the phone. And then there is a conversation. And generally, there is a medical advice. However, you may have some, let's say, potentially life-threatening case. So then the assistant plans to send it to the emergency physician. And then the assistant waits with the patient and stays in line. So there is a kind of three-way conversation because you cannot leave a patient in distress at the phone without nobody monitoring, nobody watching. And then after that, the physicians take a decision and take this advice to the patients, sometimes sends an ambulance, and the assistant of regulation becomes free again. So here is what is a very simplified version of the French Center 15. Voilà. So it's the same everywhere in France. It's a national rule, this kind of way of working. Voilà. So here you see the figures. You see the proportion of the most urgent call, 15%. On the medical advice, let's say general practitioner, maybe 1/2 of the talk. On the 1/3 are of another nature. Okay. Voilà. And you see also the time, the processing time. So you are asked what to do given the epidemic wave and that the number of calls is growing. In particular, should you add more staff for the phone, for instance, more assistants, more physicians? So well, here is a photo of the Paris Center 15, the way where all answers, all calls in central Paris are answered there. Voilà. So the kind of mathematics we use to do dimensioning is relatively classical. They have to do with what is called the Markov decision processes. So we have what we call the fluid model. So we ignore this kind of fluid limit, if you want. And we describe what you call the counter function. So the counter function for every type of event, for instance, for a patient who calls the medical emergency center, you count as a function of time the number of events. For instance, the number of patients that have been taken by expert emergency physicians. So you have such numbers. And you can show, I will not give you details because it's only the introduction of the talk, but you can show that this counter function they satisfy a dynamical system where you have a minimum because typically you have bottleneck resources, you have synchronization. So for an action to take place, you need to wait for the precondition to be satisfied. So you have to take a minimum, you have a certain offset, you have proportions, which are positive, you have non-negative numbers, and you have delays. So you have something which is very classical, which is a minimum of affine map, and the affine maps have non-negative entries. And so, because you have some conservation law, you have what we call the stoichiometric invariant, that is, the number we have there, they will typically sum to 1. And then you recognize an equation which is widely studied, which is the optimality equation of the so-called semi-Markov decision processes. And in particular, if you consider Vt over T, so this is the number of calls essentially divided by time. And so this limit, you can show it exists by classical results in Markov decision processes. And in particular, you can identify rho, the throughput, by assuming that Zt has a regular pattern. It grows linearly with the rate rho. And if you plug U plus rho T in the equation, you get the throughput. So it is the methodology to do dimensioning. Voilà. So then you can show that the throughput is a certain minimum over combinatorial quantity, which is called the policy. And basically, it is a ratio of a weight, of a positive weight of the resources. So this is the mean of the resources. Voilà, over a mean time for different kind of potentially bottleneck, let's say, features. Mean time. So it's a very natural formula. And let me show you how it goes. Voilà, so this is voilà. So for instance, in a very simplified Petri net with only one assistant and physicians, expert physicians, I ignore the general practitioners to simplify, you have that the throughput as a function of, well, this is the input flow, lambda. Lambda is the number of patients who are calling per time. And NA is the number of assistants, NP is the number of physicians, so they are the resources. And you can see that this is a piecewise linear map. Voilà. And so you have something extremely natural, very simple. That is, you want the minimum to be always achieved at the left, which means that you have enough assistants and you have enough physicians. And so this is the green phase. And so this green phase, it means that every call is answered immediately, at least in the fluid model. This is what we can compute. So we did that during the crisis. So let me show you some, yes, voilà. So this is more complicated Petri net, which I will not tell you, only if there are questions at the end. So we did that. And well, you see, so we found that the number of assistants needed was basically the input flow multiplied by a certain mean time with certain proportions. So we could measure the time. Our PhD student, Marin Boyer, he want to measure the time in the regulation room. So, but the main unknown was the input flow. So when we did this staffing, it was by something like 16th of March. Well, we asked to some epidemiological experts, and we had basically an unknown uncertainty. The parameters like input flow was not known because it was an exponential wave coming. And so there was basically uncertainty of factor 3 in staffing. So we saw that the main issue is to focus the evolution, not only to apply this formula, but really to understand what is the input flow. And then we saw that inside the data of emergency services, there was a lot of information that we could use. So this was very practical discovery working with the physicians. So here is a picture, a flow of what happened in Paris. So here I am concentrating on the 2 months of crisis, basically a bit more, the crisis for February to May, to mid-May. So this is this SAMU Center 15. They work for Paris on the close suburb. So it is more than 6 million inhabitants. So the number of calls received by SAMU emergency services was almost 500,000. 500,000. And among these, something like a bit less than 2,000 COVID files. So for each patient, there was a classification, whether it was COVID or not, or indeed whether it is a suspicion of COVID. Because at the phone, it's very difficult, especially at that time, to distinguish COVID from a flu, for instance. And then you see that among these the people who had a COVID regulation file, you had more than 1%, while what is called the MICU. So MICU is Medical Intensive Care Unit. So it is a specialized ambulance staffed with a physician and a nurse who takes the life-threatening cases and sends them directly to intensive care unit. They don't go the other ambulances, the majority. So 10% of calls had regular ambulances who go to emergency department. So maybe this is a bit of French specialty, this use of emergency vehicles staffed with physicians who go directly to emergency, to intensive care unit. Voilà. So you have this picture of what about Paris figures. And then we will see that it's quite relevant from the epidemic point of view to see that you have 3 kinds of calls. Okay. The last category, the most obvious, is the calls which results in no dispatch decision. You don't dispatch any vehicle. So this is typically medical advice. Okay. So this is generally an early signal because we will call SAMU for medical advice, maybe at the stage of first symptoms, maybe 6 days, 8 days after contamination. So you have some early signal. And in the SAMU, you have also a less early signal when you consider dispatch of an ambulance with emergency medical technician, meaning no physician on board. So maybe it's a bit similar to what is called in UK sometimes paramedics. This is the French analog of paramedics. And then you have the most serious number, which is the mobile intensive care unit for intensive care, immediate. And so each time it's later in the progression of the disease. Its most severe cases are number 1. So said in mathematical terms, you can say that you have something which you would like to know, which is the epidemic, which is the number of contamination at time t. Assuming there is only 1 compartment, for instance, how many people are contaminated at time t. And then you don't observe, but you observe what you call observable. Okay. For instance, you can say that the number of mobile intensive care units that are dispatched at time t is a certain proportion, multiplied the number of commutation with the delay. And the delay depends on the type of event. So this is very interesting because by considering different signals, you have access to different delays. And when the epidemic is not in a stationary stage, for instance, if you do lockdown, it's extremely interesting to have different delays. You will see that. So of course, you can apply this methodology to the other observables, for instance, visit of general practitioners, diseases, and other kind of signals in general. Voilà. So here is a picture in Paris. I hope it's really well readable. Maybe I could increase it a little bit. Voilà. So this is log classes, logarithmic numbers. Yes. pardon, excuse me, voilà, logarithmic numbers. So here the upper curve is the big curve of all calls, okay. And here the blue is the medical advice for COVID. And this one is ambulance dispatch. All ambulance dispatch. So as you can see, there was a peak. This peak with what we a few days, several days after the lockdown, which in France there was a massive lockdown on brutal lockdown on 17th of March everywhere in France. And you see the curves of these curves are very interesting. You see a shift. You see the big jumps around February 23. There is a jump. Okay, and you see some shift between the peak. So all this talk, all this work grow as a way we try to understand this picture of epidemic, and then it decreases. So here you see in blue the effect of lockdown, which is quite very efficient decrease. Initially, you see exponential growth because it's almost linear. Voilà. Now let me a bit more. Voilà. Oui. Voilà. So this is now a more precise signal where you consider only ambulance on the mobile intensive care unit. And then there are three colors by per department. 75 is Central Paris. So maybe this one is Central Paris. So you see a similar feature. And in red, this is the so-called 93, which is the north suburb between Paris and Roissy. So it's a more less favored area. And so you see that initially the epidemic was much stronger in Paris, and eventually it was, but the slope was considerably bigger in 93 in the north of Paris, in the north suburb, and eventually the peak was achieved in the north suburb, in the less favored area. So here on this figure you see very strong spatial discrepancies in the growth of epidemic, depending on the exposition of the population. Voilà. So we will try to understand this picture. And now it's time to do some mathematics. So for that, we use something which should be very familiar to some of the audience, to the numerical analysis expert, I think, which is the transport PDE. So we started, of course, with a standard model, which is called SEIR. So this model, well, you have its ODE. Classical model is only ODE. So you say you have 4 compartments. You have susceptible, which were not yet contaminated. You are exposed, which have been contaminated, but which are not infectious yet. Infectious individuals. And finally, you have a removed compartment because they are either they are removed by recovery or by death. Then, when you consider this very classical SEIR model, you have a production term. So the birth term, it's a bilinear. It's bilinear. It's a product of, you see, the number of susceptible individuals multiplied by the number of infectious individuals. You normalize by the total population N. N is preserved. The total population is preserved by the dynamics. And you have certain rates, okay, which gives a kind of contact rate, if you want. Right. You have many rates in the equation. So you see here, this is the birth of, let's say, newly exposed patients. So this is new creation of new contamination. So this new contamination occurs here. And then inside the compartment, you pass to the next compartment. So it's something like that with susceptible, exposed, I, infected and removed with exponential transition rates from one compartment to another. And the rates are given by the coefficient of the ODE. Voilà. So this is very classical. If you look at work of expert epidemiologic, so sometimes they do something much more sophisticated. So often they use a contact matrix. That is, they take into account age-dependent infectiosity rate. For junior people, for senior, it's not necessarily the same contact matrix. And also you have additional compartments. For instance, patients at the hospital will not have the same dynamics. So you have complicated version of this model. However, we prefer to have something a bit wider, broader, because if you do a SEIR model, you assume exponential distribution by writing on ODE. And so it means that the transition from susceptible to exposed can be arbitrarily fast with positive probability. And this is not so precise for COVID. Of course, it's a good approximation, but not so precise. For COVID-19, you estimate that the median incubation period is 5 days, around 5 days. So if you take exponential low approximation, well, you have it can take very small, the time can take very small value. So if you take by comparison, for instance, for cholera it's 1.4 days. Okay, and if you take a pneumonic plague in the rat, you see also that it's only 36 hours for the plague for the rat. So a characteristic of COVID is that the incubation time is long. So delay is important. And somehow you want to take into account the delay in your model. So for that, you use a refinement of the SEIR model, which is infinite dimensional transport PDE SEIR model. That is, you say now the interesting compartments which are exposed and infectious, then they will be infinite dimensional. Instead of just counting the number of people that are exposed or are infectious, you have a function NE of xt, which counts, which is the density of the number of individuals that were contaminated x time units before time t. In other way, this is the density of number of individuals of age x, well, in the exposed phase at time t. And then the total number of exposed population, you just take the integrate of the density over all possible ages in the compartment. So in the same way, for the number of infectious individuals, you have a density as a function of time and as a function of age in the infectious compartment. So it means that the individual has became infectious x time unit before. And in the same way, you get the total infectious population. So we use that. We use this infinite dimensional version. And then you can have arbitrary delay into account. So here is this the PDE system. So you get the same structure as the SEIR model. That is, you take a bilinear creation term of, so people become, you see, exposed with a rate which is a product of susceptible times density of infected, and you have a normalization. But then you have this integral over all possible ages of infectious people in the infectious compartment. You have this rate function, which is more complicated because there are two arguments now. The contact rate depend of the infectiosity rate, depend of how old you are in the compartment, and also on time, because you can take sanitary measures. And then you have some natural boundary condition, you see, where the people who leave the S compartment enter the exposed compartment at age 0. And so this is some kind of renewal type equation, and it is very well known. And then you have a transport term, which tells you that in the exposed compartment, people get older, or they move to the infectious compartment, which is the next one. So this is exactly the SEIR model, but in infinite dimension. And so now these rates, they are non-negative functions. So this model is a bit richer, I would say. So you will recognize that this is a very classical model. It's a variant of a model introduced by Kermack McKendrick. So McKendrick was, maybe you know him, he was a very famous physician of the army, a Scottish physician of the army. And so he analyzed the plague epidemic in Mumbai in 1905 by introducing the first model of this kind. And so for our work, we use a lot of monography of Pertag. Of course, there are many works on that. It's also called the von Forstner model. So now, of course, you can verify that if you take constant rate, then you recover the classical ODE SEIR. So it's a generalization of just more expressive of the class standard epidemiologic model. Now you put control. You like to do optimization, you like to do control. So what does it mean? If you put epidemic control, well, you can say that you have rate passing from exposed to infectious or from infectious to removed. They only depend on age. They are not controlled. These ones are not controlled. However, by sanitary measure, you can control the creation of new exposed individuals. So you assume that there is a function of time which well can reduce the number of new exposed people. So in your model, so one coefficient is control, is your input. So this has been considered by several authors. In particular, there was an interesting early article by Chang and co-workers. Voilà. So classically, when you have such a model, you linearize. That is, in the early stage, you consider that essentially all the population is susceptible, and then the bilinear term becomes linear. So now you have a very standard linear transport PDE with positive coefficients, with positive integral terms. So it's a very, very nice equation with positivity properties. And the control is here. It is the creation of newly exposed individual. And you can rewrite everything in terms of the exposed and infectious compartment. So are you with me? Any questions? The sound is fine?
Sound is great.
Okay. Voilà. Voilà. So for some reasons, which we will see, it's useful in this model to have bounded edge compartments. So we'll assume it will be useful in our theorems and also in practice for modeling that there is a maximal edge in every compartment. So maximal edge in exposed compartment, maximal edge in infectious compartment. And then you have to modify the boundary condition so that the population is preserved, that this is the same type of PDE, and this is what we will use. Okay. So remember, N is the density of population in the exposed and infectious compartment. So this is, we will assume, of course, that the function, the rate are non-negative and that they don't vanish. Otherwise, you have degenerations. So under such a reasonable assumption, something you know that you have existence of solution. So in the distribution sense, it's known that the solution exists in the space of L1. So you have a density. So density is expected to have a finite mass. And so indeed, at every point, there is a well-defined density, which is a function of L1, both for the number of exposed individual and for the number of infectious individual. So you have a well-defined semigroup of operators or linear operators evolution acting on the space L1. And what is important is that the evolution is order preserving. That is, if you consider two population one and two, such that initially you have a fewer individuals that are exposed and that are infectious at time 0. This will imply that the first population is still dominated by the second at time t. So it's order preserving property, which will be fundamental. So what is essential is the semigroup is preserved L1, it is order preserving, and it is linear operator. Voilà. So when you have that, you have a quite standard result that you have a Perron-Frobenius second problem. So if you look for an eigenvalue, so the eigenvalue lambda, the eigenvector now is a function only of h. So there is an eigenvector corresponding to the population exposed compartment, or an eigenvector corresponding to the infectious compartment, the eigenvalue, and then this problem is well posed. This is called the Perron-Frobenius second problem. It's infinite dimensional non-negative matrix problem. And so it's known, it's relatively standard that, it's by the method of characteristics, that, if rate functions are non-negative measurable, essentially bounded, then you have a solution which is continuous and positive, and the eigenvalue is unique. And the eigenvector will be also unique. So it's very, very standard. So this is classical result. So use the eigenvector. Voilà. So what is important for the rest, what is decisive, this is the main, it's very elementary observation, but essential in the proof, is that the eigenvectors gives you a comparison principle. That is, suppose that n bar, remember, is an eigenvector. So it's a population, it's a stationary population in the exposed and infectious compartment, up to an exponential growth. And assume that you can compare initial population W with n bar, with the eigenvector. And so you can always, you are dealing with positive population. So you can put positive number in sandwich. W, your initial population, is bounded below by alpha n bar the eigenvector, and beta times the eigenvector. Then by order preserving character of the semigroup, it's immediate to say, you apply ST the semigroup, and you can say that the population at time t for the initial population W is bounded by the semigroup acting on the eigenvector, which is an exponential map. So you have this kind of universality, if you want, for every initial condition, you grow with a rate which is given by the, again, Perron-Frobenius eigenvalue. So this is not so difficult, this is absolutely elementary. So in particular, what is the epidemic observable, what we observe? We can say that what we observe is a certain mean of an infectious population with respect to a positive Borel measure. So typically, we say that the number of infectious people that you observe, what you observe from the EMS service, is a certain proportion of patients. The patients who need intensive care multiplied by a contamination at time t minus tau. So it corresponds to a measure where you have a delay and you have a proportion. Of course, you can have more complicated measures. And from what is above, you can deduce this proposition of universality of epidemic observable. That is, in the long run, whatever is the positive measure, since you have this Perron-Froment second problem, you know that the logarithmic growth rate of observable will always be the eigenvalue, just by the universality theorem I showed you. That is very interesting because when you look at real data, sometimes you find that different series have different rates. So it implies that there is some inconsistency or a more sophisticated phenomena which is working. Voilà. Of course, if you like discrete version of the PD model, for instance, this kind of ODE with Messler matrix or discrete model, they also enter in the formalism. There are variants which correspond to discretization of the transport PD. So you can say the transport PD is a reasonably general model. So here is now the time to come to the main result of this talk. That was because ultimately there was some kind of mathematical results, which we will see. Piecewise linear approximation of logarithm of observable. So you expect now, you study what happens if you change, you see, of policy. So in France, first you do nothing. Then one day you take mild measure, and then you do lockdown, very severe. And you wonder how will, what will be the epidemic observable given you change control. So a way to model that is to say that you have your epidemic control mu-t in your transport PDE, and you have this commutation instant, maybe T1, the first time you take a decision, and T2, where you take another decision. And you change sanitary measures at time t. So what this implies, it implies that there are different semigroups. Maybe there is a semigroup S0 when you do nothing, and there is an evolution semigroup F1 when you take mild measure, and you take evolution semigroup S2 when you do lockdown. And now you have S3, S4, etc. You have many other sanitary measures. And so what you can tell, you have a certain time instance, commutation time. And so you can say that the number of individuals, abstractly, the population at time t, which is obtained by from the initial population, by, you make acting first the first semigroup when you do nothing during time T1 minus T0, then the semigroup which corresponds to the second stage of sanitary measures, and first stage, and so on. So we have a composition of different semigroups with different time intervals. So you see this abstractly like a composition of semigroups. So you will require that the semigroups are bounded, which is fine because they work in L1 typically. And you require the set of densities of the population to be represented by a partially ordered Banach space. So L1 times L1 for exposed and infectious is perfect. Okay. Or you can do Rn if you like a finite dimensional model, it works. And you require this is fundamental. So the semigroups, they are linear, of course. They should be linear, order, preserving and bounded. Voilà. Then, to introduce the main result, when you have a Perron-Frobenius theory, there is a beautiful, very old tool in Perron-Frobenius theory, which is Hilbert projective metric. So if you never hear about it, don't miss this talk. This may be the most reusable one. Okay. So we have a positive cone, think to R plus to the n, or things to the positive function in L1. Okay. So what is a part of the cone, of a positive cone? It is an equivalence class for the relation. You say that two functions are comparable if you can say that function W is in sandwich between a constant positive times V and another positive constant times V. This is sandwich. It's a comparability relation, like when you say that two norms are comparable. So Hilbert projective metric is the logarithm of the best comparability constant. You take the size of a sandwich, beta over alpha, such that W is controlled above and below by V, and you take the log of the infimum. And so this is Hilbert projective metric. So if you take for Rn for the positive cone, you can see that the positive Hilbert projective metric is given by something like a max minus a mean. And then it is essentially something very well known, which is the norm subnorm modulo constant. You take the Rn with a subnorm, and you mod out by the constant vectors. And then there is a quotient norm, and this quotient norm is exactly Hilbert seminorm. And so here, this is infinite dimensional version of Hilbert seminorm. This is the same. Okay, so you know this guy. So an observable, the number of epidemic events will be a linear force. So a continuous linear form acting on the space of population. So this is what you observe. So you assume that your linear observable do not vanish, otherwise taking the logarithm is antisocial. And then what you observe is this. This is the observation, the logarithm of the number of epidemic events at time t. And of course, you suppose that you have several semigroups. S1 during the first stage of sanitary measure, S2 and so on. So you assume that at stage J, there is a given Perron-Frobenius eigenvector, and there is also one eigenvalue, a different eigenvalue for every stage. And then you have this now, this is the main theorem of the paper, a very simple approximation result, where you use in a critical way the fact that order preserving maps that are linear, they are non-expansive for Hilbert metric. Okay? So this is something that you have to remember. Okay, S the Hilbert metric between ST semigroup of U and ST of V is always smaller than the Hilbert metric between UV for ST, which is a positive semigroup. So this is a fundamental property of order preserving semigroups. And so when you use that, you arrive at the following metric estimate. You consider a piecewise linear map. Something simple. Okay. That is, during the first stage, so the commutation instant will be T1 when you change the policy, sanitary measure, T2 and so on, T3. During the first stage, you move with slope maybe S1, lambda 1, then you move with slope lambda 2, etc. And then there is an offset gamma, which will be carefully optimized. Yeah? So you define a piecewise linear map where you move with eigenvalue. With the slope is eigenvalue. So it is as if the system was in dimension 1, if you want. Right? It's a scalar approximation. It's a piecewise linear approximation. And then the theorem is that the true epidemic observable. So this is the true epidemic observable is close in logarithmic classes. It's the log of number of events is close to what you call the tropicalization, the piecewise affine map, with an error, which is very easy to remember. The error is essentially delta up to factor 2. And delta is the sum of distance between eigenvectors, consecutive eigenvectors, and also distance of initial condition to the first eigenvector. So what it means is that if you take, sanitary measure which make the eigenvector change slowly in some sense, then actually this delta is small. So it's a measure of the importance of a shift of sanitary measure. So it's like a quasi-static approximation result where you see you use non-expansiveness. In principle, the eigenvalue is achieved only asymptotically, but since you have non-expansiveness property, during the first stage of sanitary measure, you converge to the eigenvector, and then when you shift, you keep a little bit of this property. You don't reset to 0, but you keep a good approximation of that. So you use non-expansiveness in a critical way. If you have expansive dynamics, you will not get such this kind of proof. Not so easy, at least. Voilà. And so you can check that the approximation is exact. So if you take the SIR model, OZE, delta is equal to 0 because you work in the positive space, which is just a point. Voilà. But in general, so for complex model, it's true. Voilà. So I will not tell you many details. So in particular, for the transport PD model, you use the characteristic method. So remember the delta was essentially depending on the distance between consecutive eigenvectors. And so we see that, our tubular width, you have a tube. So this distance is essentially controlled by the difference between consecutive eigenvalue times, this is the maximal time in the disease. So maybe 15 days in disease. Voilà. So it's time to show you some picture now. Yes, and so I show you, when you know it's piecewise linear, so what you can do is reconstruction, solving the inverse problem. So let's assume, for instance, that you assume that you look for a piecewise linear model which is with mean, which is concave, if you say that you take harder and harder sanitary measure. And then you observe, you have this observable, which you measure, and then you can do L1 fitting to find the best piecewise linear map, maybe concave, okay, which fits your data. So this is what we did, and actually use dynamic programming to do that, because this problem is non-convex. This is much harder than it looks like, because it's not convex. Voilà, so let me show you now, let me explain what happens in Paris, and then I will leave time for questions. So as I said, so in Paris, there were 3 initial phases of sanitary measure. Until February 19, nothing happened, no general measures. Then from February 19, we have what was called stage 2. So basically it was social distancing, not shake hand, but nothing very important. However, in companies, it began to be forbidden to go into big meetings. Meetings with more than 10 people sometimes were forbidden. So this is called a mild measure, especially in companies, on the general distanciation. And then almost consecutively, you had school closure, and then the day after, on March 17, you have a national lockdown. And so then you say, okay, then you can interpret variation of slope in terms to measure the efficiency of sanitary measure, or at least their effect. So here is the piecewise linear approximation, globally optimal, computed by dynamic programming, in principle, if there was no mistake. Et voilà. Oh, no, it's too big, sorry, it's too big. Voilà. So you see that there are actually 3 pieces, approximately. And the first 3, so here the last, the peak value corresponds to the updog measure, and it occurred, for instance, something like 14 days after the lockdown day. So here you can measure the time of severity. That is, when you have ambulance dispatch, well, you expect it occurs between 10 and 14 days after lockdown time, which is the conjectural maximal number for contamination. So you can infer that this distance between lockdown and the peak, the non-differentiability point, it is the time of aggravation, time when you need at which you need an ambulance, time of aggravation, of severity, aggravation. And so when you see that there is a second, in the 4 departments, you have a second slope, which is milder. So this slope corresponds to mild measure. So in that way, you can quantify, you can see that this mild measure, they were efficient. And in particular, they were efficient even in the north of Paris, where the population is very much exposed to various works. So you can say that mild measure had some impact. And then when you see at the bottom of the slide, you can see that, the doubling time was much smaller, for instance, almost 4 in the north of Paris versus 6 in central Paris, which is more posh. Central Paris is a bit more rich generally. Voilà, so for that, you can infer the delay between a measure and ambulance dispatch, measure during piecewise linear approximation, L1 minimization. And you have also some very interesting picture like this one. You can see that the peak for medical advice occurred before lockdown, and very early before the peak of real ambulance dispatch. So this delay is way too long. The peak was on the 12th, on the 13th. So what it means is that this peak was only because President Macron spoke at the TV, and so everybody was scared. So apparently this peak does not correspond to the disease, because the delay is not compatible with epidemiologic model. And now I submit to your sagacity the interpretation. Can you guess why there is this jump? Why there is this jump? Can you guess it? Do you have an idea? So, an epidemiological model, it's ODE or a nice transport PDE. It's not expected to do a jump. This is the number of medical advice is jumping, okay? You can say people for medical advice is not really a serious need, but here it's ambulance dispatch. And you have also a big jump. So it's a real epidemic jump, but which is not explained by the epidemic model. And there, by that time, there was no effect of no change of sanitary measure. Can you guess what it is?
Maybe,
any clue?
Maybe it's about the information in the media, something like that.
No media. This is media. This is media. This is Macron media or Macron discussion. Macron on the TV. But this one is not media. It's multiplication by 10. It's something very, very important.
Was
And it's ambulances. Ambulances cannot be media. Cannot be too much. It could be instruction to the population to call SAMU, to call emergency services instead of going to emergency department to avoid overcrowding and to avoid contamination. That could be an explanation, but not so steep. Not so steep. So we conjecture there is some evidence that it may be conjecturally the patients coming back from Italy. There was the end of vacation of February in Milano, in Venezia, and with a lot of Parisians that go to Italy for vacation to see Venice or to see Milano. And then there was, so according to physicians with whom we worked, there were some number of cases who were sick coming back from Italy, and this is what it suggested. So when we see a jump, we conjecture that a jump is always implied by transport phenomena. Transport in the sense that people moving, contaminating people, moving from one place to another. So it seems that really the contamination in Paris, the epidemic in Paris really started with the cases from Italy, it seems. So I have finished, I think, almost. Voilà. So this was to show you that in some parts of France, they did a pre-lockdown measure, was on Oran. There were two departments very special, where they closed the school 1 week before, and then the epidemic stopped 1 week before. So it suggests that at least in some province areas, it's not the need to do full lockdown to stop COVID. If you take only severe measures like a school closure, it is enough to stop 1 week before on Paris and the rest of France. Voilà. And now I finished. It's a bit too technical. And voilà. So the conclusion is that when you look at these signals from emergency departments, they have an early view of epidemic evolution. And the evolution is extremely spatially differentiated. And now there are two papers, a lot of acknowledgement, two papers, one with physicians in a journal of the biology, let's say medicine, and one in a math journal. They are on my webpage, on the archive, on the medRxiv. And now I'd be happy to answer to all questions.
Okay, so it's time for questions now. Please ask questions to Stefan.